Hello, this is Andrew. Welcome to Collaborative Learning. Today's book is Death of a Leaping Horseman, 24th Panzer Division in Stalingrad, by Jason Mark. If you like my work, please give it a like, subscribe to this channel, check the playlists, and support me on Patreon and PayPal. The links to Patreon and PayPal are included in the description to this video. Check out additional links and information in the description box below. First, I'll describe the contents of the book, talk about what's interesting about it, then I'll move on to what you can get out of it. I have been a collector of World War II divisional and unit histories and war diaries for 20 years. Death of a Leaping Horseman, the 24th Panzer Division in Stalingrad, is a true gem in the rough. It was out of print for many years, with rare copies being sold for hundreds of dollars. Out of the hundreds of World War II books I own, I consider it one of the most practical and essential ones. It's in my personal top 10. When this book was republished in 2014, it revolutionized my understanding of how the Germans fought offensive operations in the Soviet Union. My only regret is that it was not republished much earlier, because if I read it years earlier, I would have saved a lot of time and a lot of confusion. This is the best book for beginners that want to increase their level of understanding of how German combined arms combat in World War II worked on the Eastern Front. How do we do this? We become smart enough to step into the shoes of a German combat division commander. We learn how infantry, tanks, artillery, and air power worked on a daily basis. There are many unit histories, but the first-time student of the war would learn the most from reading this one. There is a much higher quality of research than typical. Uniting all these technical details is the animating spirit of the soldiers and the officers performing their missions with death-defying sense of purpose. Many brave men attacked to the death. Their voice is preserved here in the primary source documents and in the veterans' accounts. These men had high combat morale and were willing to sacrifice themselves like countless soldiers of countless nations since the beginning of recorded history. Many of the men of the 24th Panzer stormed forward, believing that the lands they took would remain forever German. They believed that they were a living part of a new and greater German history, and that their deaths would echo into eternity. Besides Death of a Leaping Horseman, there is also the Blitzkrieg Legend, the 1940 campaign in the West, by Karl Fraser. These two books support each other. This official German research work is about the mechanics of Blitzkrieg in France, 1940. The link to the Blitzkrieg review is in the description box below. Jason Mark is the owner and principal author of an Australian publishing house called Leaping Horseman Books. He has published several books, many of them focusing on original and groundbreaking German army research, and on the Battle of Stalingrad. I consider Jason Mark one of the many private historians that outclass academic historians due to very real and very genuine passion for the subject. I would rather read the work of a person who has studied something for decades with primary sources than an academic chasing a current trend and deliberately selecting hot topics to elevate their career. The books that Jason Mark makes are unusually dense in detail and are the product of many years of effort. He combines original military documents, first-hand accounts, period photographs, maps, and diagrams, and weaves them into an organized day-to-day war diary that has a higher standard of military accuracy. There are a lot more facts and less opinion than in typical military histories. The 24th Panzer Division in World War II was an elite unit with one of the best combat records. It was a top 10 German unit on the Eastern Front. Hardcore students of the war in the Soviet Union are familiar with the unit as it frequently appeared in the German order of battle for high priority missions. It was used in many successful attacks in the offensive period of the war until it was destroyed in Stalingrad. Sufficient men escaped Stalingrad, and the unit was rebuilt into another crack unit. In the defensive period, it was frequently employed in the mobile defense and in the counterattack. The 24th Panzer was primarily composed of Prussian cavalrymen. It was originally organized as the 1st Cavalry Division with 17,000 horses. Then it was reorganized and retrained as an armored division with 3,000 vehicles. In the summer of 1942, the 24th Panzer Division participated in the second German invasion of the Soviet Union, the Operation Case Blue. It made successful offensive thrusts until it reached a massive and hilly defense in depth that blocked the road into Stalingrad. This massive salient was called the Don Bend, and this is where the coverage in the book begins, during the battle for the Don Bend, in August 1942. The 24th Panzer Division would attack echelon after echelon of Soviet trench line defense and forts. It would dismantle these defense lines one by one, using combined arms tactics with infantry, armor, and artillery, along with massive close air support. This air support was among the most massive of the Germans in the entire war, and the 24th Panzer air support exceeded what was allocated to individual attacking German panzer divisions in the Battle of Kursk. On the peak days, the division saw the support of up to 3,000 close air support sorties by dive bombers, medium bombers, and fighters. Using this massive firepower and a high level of fighting skill, they were among the first units to break into Stalingrad itself. Once they broke into the city, the division got completely bogged down into an epic struggle. The Soviets had near infinite reinforcements, and while the division kept on advancing, it became a struggle for the next house rather than the next blitzkrieg. It started in the suburbs of Stalingrad, and then there was a battle for the factories, a true maze of broken industrial machinery and rubble heaps. The Red October tractor factory was a particularly difficult obstacle. Meanwhile, the division started suffering severe attrition. This book goes into great detail about the daily decimation of the division. By November 1942, the division was reduced to just several operational tanks and just a single battalion of combatants left. This is where the book ends, as the Soviets would launch the massive Operation Uranus and encircle the entire German 6th Army, along with the 24th Panzer in it. With no more primary source documents, the author ends his history. Death of a Leaping Horseman, the 24th Panzer Division in Stalingrad, uses primary sources to create a daily combat history that is unique in how it reveals how a German Panzer Division operates to a greater extent than other unit histories. The major organizational decisions are made along with the processes the Germans use to organize offensive and defensive combat operations. So we understand what kind of preparations were made to attack and defend, along with a lot of technical detail. The book is very data heavy, with a lot of details on troop strengths, tanks, logistics, and claimed enemy losses. There are also biographies of many leading officers, and they are referred to throughout the text. This makes the unit history a commander's history as well. Supporting this are hundreds of well-researched and well-captioned photographs that match the exact day and the situation of the division. These photographs were recovered from Jason Mark's contact with veterans, secondary sources, and official archives. There are also a lot of aerial photographs and maps that are timely and increase the value of the text significantly. Valuable personal accounts from veterans are inserted in the right time and place in the history. These personal accounts combined give eyewitness perspectives that make the division come alive. The final result is that the death of a leaping horseman gives a very valuable education to the student of World War II. This pays dividends forever. We learn how a German tank division operates to a much higher level, how they led and organized their tank divisions. There are tons of content on German combat tactics. how the logistics functioned in their units, and finally how German tank divisions changed as they grew smaller and smaller due to losses. How the scope of their assignments shrank as their units shrunk. The ever-shrinking German division is a perennial feature of German forces in World War II, particularly after summer of 1943. Germany was no longer able to rebuild their units adequately and frequently functioned with only partial units, only capable of defense and limited counterattacks. Few unit histories describe this degenerative process better than this book. With the knowledge and mental models acquired from this book, all of the German armies fighting World War II will be better understood. You will have reached the next level. I rate Death of a Leaping Horseman a 6 out of 5 stars. So that's what I think about Death of a Leaping Horseman, the 24th Panzer Division in Stalingrad by Jason Mark. Please put your thoughts and ideas in the comment section. They always make a great conversation. I hope you find my review to be informative. Thanks for watching.